filled with challenges, temptations, and a barrage of distractions. In the midst of chaos, where misinformation abounds, we're here to be your beacon of inspiration. Welcome to Optimum Ideation Podcast, where we dive deep into the teachings of great leaders to illuminate the path to a better society. In a quest for the best of human ideation, we're on a relentless pursuit to unearth the most profound insights that can elevate humanity. At Optimum Ideation, our mission is clear: to share invaluable knowledge with the future leaders of the world, empowering them to navigate the complexities of an unjust world. Sometimes all we need is a spark of inspiration or a fresh perspective to shift our focus. Join us as we delve into the profound reasons behind human behavior, offering tricks to save time, hacks to optimize your operating system, and unveiling captivating discoveries from the greatest thought leaders of our time. Optimum Ideation isn't just a podcast, it's a journey into the heart of human potential. Get ready for a roller coaster ride of inspiration, insight, and innovation. Human's best ideation awaits you at Optimum Ideation, where brilliance knows no bounds. The best of human ideation. Welcome, everyone, to Optimum Ideation Podcast. We have an awesome guest today, and I can't wait for her to share her story with you. I find her background in psychology, philosophy, and many other things, and life lessons to be pretty fascinating, and I'm sure you will too. Welcome, Anna. I'm so glad to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a joy networking with you, and you know, you're a giver, and I am as well. So I'm sure this will be a great episode for everyone.
Thank you.
So I like to get right into the questions. So let's hear a little bit. What's your personal story, your career path, and how did you get to here?
I am a free domesticated slave. I was born in a white supremacist society that was so ingrained with a hierarchy and a boxed type way of thinking that they were normalizing, and they do normalize, slavery, abuse, so that none of us were mindful or aware of what was really going on. I was trafficked, abused, beaten, imprisoned, wore chains. The list goes on. Almost every type of abuse you can imagine, I endured it, including forced breeding. By the time I was 15, I realized that there was a significant difference between, a commonality between everybody who was abusing me, and that was a lack of education. And I hypothesized that, if I just get smarter, I can get away from them. So I started studying philosophy, psychology, sociology. And very early on, I discovered Plato, which would go on to be the core of a lot of my studies. And from there, it became a mastery of human behavior so that I could outthink, outmaneuver, and navigate around my abusers so I could best predict what I could expect. Now, this is a common trauma response for almost anybody who goes through trauma. But for me, it was infused with a deep understanding of human psychology, sociology, identifying patterns in human behavior with trauma, as well as the philosophy. And that's when I really dove deep. The trauma left me so significantly handicapped, disabled, that I was not able to get a job. I wasn't able to function outside of the slave situation that I was in. And I finally, in 2015, managed to get into therapy. At that time, when I walked into therapy, I found out that what was available for services were too inadequate And at that point, I had about 20 years of psychology, philosophy, sociology under me. So I came up with my own program. And according to my therapists, I crammed 20 years of therapy into 5 years. 3 years later, I had cured all of my mental illnesses, illnesses that they deemed were incurable, including multiple personality disorder. And in 2020, my then husband decided that he needed to kick me out because I was too old to breed. So I came to New York City and finished off my healing earlier this year. Around February, I found the last key piece to my program and accumulated everything that I had studied over the last 30 years. And in so doing, created the triadic healing. I created my radical global healing plan. And I was able to resolve a lot of questions that I found inside philosophy, which I deemed the philosopher's compass. And I plugged that in to create a plan to get us to world peace using our natural evolution, our natural learning and education skills, our own mimicking, learning, repetition, behavioral for learning, and our parenting instincts.
Trauma and trials and tribulations, it really kind of makes us level up and overcome. And so you've overcame a whole lot. And I think that I like reading your kind of bio, and it's like you took education as like the cure for all the things that ailed you. So I always enjoy interviewing minds that have spent a lot of time learning and building to overcome. And then, the show is about providing a platform for, people that are building things to help others. And so, I felt like you would be a great guest to interview and share your story and learn more about you. And of course, I see that you're very big on networking, and so am I. So, wherever we can share and help each other's out, it's always a good thing. So, we've kind of focused on some of your challenging trials and tribulations. What was one of your most challenging, or what was some things that just really kind of stand out and in your mind?
That would be loneliness. It was the total isolation.
Yeah.
In any kind of a narcissistic community, they live off of the triangular system, triangular communication. It is a divide and conquer mindset.
Yeah.
And it's not just, this is what sociology taught me and psychology, is that you have the individual network frame, and you have a community, like a family network frame, and you have a societal community network frame. And narcissism can exist between two people. It can exist in a family setting, and it can exist in an entire society. It's the same thing all the way around. You have the narcissistic A model, and then they divide and conquer. This whole thing is about limited resources. It's basically a fight for or a preservation of our resources. And the resources are divided into two categories, technically three. Let's say three. Everything is a spectrum. Nothing is black and white. The first one is your givers. These are the people who have the resources, even though they don't think they have the resources, and they are being used by a taker to get more resources. You have the taker. The taker is the one who is significantly depleted in resources, so they think, and as a result, they use people and hoard people as a means to take and hoard as many resources as they can. The in-between is the person who knows their own worth, knows their own resources, sees the resources of others, and understands the exchange, the emotional transaction of how to share, very much a stone soup story setting, how to share all resources so there is abundance and enough for everyone to go around. And the imbalance happens when there is a fear of loss or a fear of resources. So the taker targets all the givers, will divide all the givers to make sure that there's isolation so that the givers are only giving to the taker. The taker convinces, using brainwashing, psychological entrapment, and Stockholm syndrome, to convince the giver that all of their resources belong to the taker. But the giver is completely oblivious to their own resources. They are conditioned and brainwashed into thinking that they have no resources until and unless they are loved by a taker. So they cling to, in a very codependent society, they cling to the taker who drains them of all of their resources. We see this in every level of partner, husband, wife. We see it with mother or a father with children. We see this with a teacher and students. We see this with boyfriend, girlfriend, and we see it with government and society. We see it with coworker and employees. Do not allow them to communicate. It is the first rule of narcissism, is as soon as you have that triangular communication, if they start talking to each other, they will figure this out. So the best way to ensure control of everyone and resources is to divide and conquer, which makes every giver in the world completely alone and isolated. And furthermore, because they are alone and isolated, the only association they have is with the taker. And because they associate people are moralistically equivalent to a taker, they associate people with pain, people with basically just not pleasant thoughts. So as a result, they avoid people in general, isolating themselves further. So it's like this aversion tactic that givers then proceed in, where they become shut-ins, isolating themselves further. I ended up becoming a shut-in for 20 years because I associated people with pain, because I thought that all people were takers, even though I was an overgiver. And as a result, that ended up dividing and conquering. So for 40 years, I was absolutely alone. I had no family. My family unit was a narcissistic setup of giver taker. My boyfriends and then my owners and then my husbands were narcissistic giver taker, and I was isolated. And then that same hierarchy ended up infiltrating down into my children, so that my children formed their own unit of giving taking. It was a whole web of codependency. When I finally got out of it, and I started to break off into society, I started to see how separate, how divided I was. And then my life work from 2020 to the present is learning and mastering the art of reconnecting the network so that the isolation and loneliness stops.
Yeah. 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 I've definitely experienced, loneliness in my travels. And it's really sad because, I just kind of want the best for everybody. And it's, you just want the best for everyone. You want to do right by everyone. And it's just not the case. You think that everybody's like that when you're younger, and it's just not the case. And,
Yeah.
It just kind of leads you down like kind of a dark path, and,
Yeah.
Disappointment, really. And yeah, I feel you on that one. But, you pray on it, you do the work, like you said, and really it is work to kind of get back into, wanting to branch out and network. And so you just want to make sure that when you do, that you're making the right decisions and you're putting the right people in places. And so I definitely appreciate that. So I talked to you about this question, what layers did you have to reveal to become who you are now?
Yeah. So I was raped on 9/11, and it was a forced perspective that left me with my first groundbreaking hypothesis from my philosophy work. In January, it was actually January 2nd of 2002, I was very much enslaved in that Stockholm syndrome mindset. And the person that I was owned by at that point was an attorney who was 30 years my senior. He lived in New York City, big attorney who was a master of logic. Logic was his be all, end all, and my punishment. If I was not logical, then I would be raped as punishment. So I very quickly learned that being illogical was dangerous, which actually became the core of my saving grace, and everything that would be logic is my thing. It has to be. And it was trauma bonded to me, so that I now associate logic or lack of logic with danger. which is actually cognitive dissonance, which amplifies that. So it was a belief, not a love for him. I never loved him. It was 5 years of me trying to escape him. And every time I tried, he would use logic to ensnare me and keep me there. And it was finally in January of 2002 when he was giving his usual logical argument. And I had this massive comprehension of something I call the Rorschach print perspective. I said to him, and I closed out his words and I just said, I see all of us standing on a pillar, looking out at this one defined point of truth, a perspective. And everything we have in our lives come in through our 5 senses, our eyesight, nose, smell, touch, and hearing. But these things are not fact. They are opinion, because every eye, every nose, and every mouth, every ear, every skin touch is different, which means all of these things are our opinions, which means everything that I have in my filter and my comprehension is my opinion, and everything in his filter and in his perspective is his opinion. And what makes his opinion any better than mine? And I realized that every opinion that somebody else has come to me and forced into me was literally like a Rorschach print filter that they put between me and that point of truth. And it was just a mastery of taking each perspective, every Rorschach print, and removing it so I could get closer and closer to seeing what the truth actually was, my perspective. When I did that, it was a sudden realization, a devaluing of his opinion, his logic. It was him being on this pedestal and him suddenly coming down to my level. And I went, we're equals, and you are no better than me. Therefore, my opinion is actually what's valuable here to me. At that moment, my Stockholm syndrome completely broke, my psychological entrapment, all of it ended. And I was able to systematically remove all of those filters. That became the core to all of my work that I did. Now, I had a lot of other stuff to work through, and that rape led me to being a shut-in from 2002 all the way up to 2020. So I still had a lot of things to get through, but it was a 20-year pursuit of learning how to identify all of these perspectives and learning how to, or filters, and learning how to remove each and every one of them. What layers? Oh, well, that's where mental illness comes in. It was a logical fallacy that caused codependency. It was borderline personality disorder, multiple personality disorder. By the way, I did all of this as an alter, Joanna, without realizing that I, Anna, was trapped inside the 4th level of my subconscious mind. So it was removing all of these, not knowing I had multiple personality disorder, not knowing I had codependency or borderline personality disorder or depression or suicidal ideation. No idea. I was just trying to remove these filters that was between me and my truth. So it was a 20-year, I'm going to remove as many of these truths as I possibly can. And in order to do that, I found out that my biggest obstacle was my subconscious mind. And I realized that all mental illness is nothing more than just a civil divide between the identity, the ego, and the subconscious mind who's trying to keep you safe using the fear system. Once I learned all of these pieces, I started to learn how to talk, communicate with all parts of the mental system, and learn how to work with them as a team. I could then negotiate with my subconscious mind, convince my subconscious mind that it was safe. That is when my multiple personalities started to reveal themselves to me to say, by the way, we're multiples, you have alters, and we're here when you don't know about it, because they finally felt safe enough to reveal us. Then it became the work of us all working together, mapping out the subconscious mind, using the philosophy and the psychology and the sociology to determine all the moving parts to figure out how to remove all of these layers and filters.
Yeah. I'm trying to, understand, I have a minor in psychology, and, we studied, so many different, what they would call illnesses or what have you. But, I think later on in life, I've kind of been looking at more of like the spirituality of our existence, and, our energy is not really visible to everyone, but And a lot of people don't take, partners or sexual partners. They don't think of it on like a spiritual level. And if you're with someone, or if you're with multiple people and you're sharing your, DNA with them, and you're sharing your energy with them, then I feel like, there's some, you're sharing more than people give credit for. And so if you're with someone sexually, then you take a piece of them. And so that becomes a part of you, and whoever they were with is a part of them. And you're literally like absorbing that energy from them. So, it's like people need to be more serious and think more deeply about the partners that they choose in this life. Because if you are with someone that's crazy, or or maybe they've had a bunch of partners, then you're absorbing that energy, in my mind. And science is beginning to show this as well. And so, you may feel like you had those things, but as time passes and you're breaking these chains, like you say, you're getting away from that shared energy, and you're overcoming it. You're getting away from that. You took time away from being with people, I imagine, as I did. Spent years, kind of in a celibacy, to gain my sanity, in a sense, and get rid of the bad energy that had latched onto me from previous partners that were, not faithful, or are just not caring. And as you share that energy with these people, and you absorb that, then it just kind of latches onto you until you take that break and gather yourself, and like you did, pour yourself into education. You're able to learn more and get away from these types of things. And so I don't know if you believe that or not, but
The similar in my construct, energy, that how you are using it, is actually a logical fallacy. And when you identify precisely what logical fallacies have been inserted into the cognitive core, you can systematically locate them and pull them right out of you. And it's the logical fallacy that creates an invasive perspective. So you have your cognitive core. You have 4 or 5 parts of your cognitive core: who you love, what you love. It's all love. This is your identity. And then your ethics. These are the 12 stages of growth, what you value. And then when you combine what you love with what you value, it creates your beliefs. Your beliefs are fully based off of a summation of what you love and what you value. And then that summation creates your name, what your name is. Not your given name, but your actual who you are inside of you. And that summation makes up your truth, or your logic, or your perspective. It's all the same thing. When you have an abuser that comes in, they will give you information that you think is a fact, or you value their information enough to put it into your system as a belief, but it is incompatible with your love and your ethics. And as a result, your subconscious mind has a behavior going, well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, because it's not logical. So it creates that belief, and it changes it over to a logical fallacy, a limiting belief. And that creates a new trajectory that creates an invasive perspective, a logical fallacy with a new belief or a new name and a new perspective. Now you've got 2 perspectives inside of your mind. This is not healthy. You have your logical line with your perspective, your truth, and you have the invasive perspective, which is your abuser. And you toggle between the 2 of them. We think these are mood swings. They're not mood swings. It's your subconscious mind trying to follow 2 different lines of subconscious behavior, and it doesn't know which one to go. It depends on which one's safe. You could have 3 or 4 invasive perspectives. Every invasive perspective is linked to a logical fallacy, and that determines which mental illness you have. Remove the logical fallacy, you remove the mental illness. Every time. And it's predictable. And it's all linked to our ethics. A lot of people use the word energy with the logical fallacy.
Very good. Very good.
It's extraordinary. I just did it with one of my clients this morning where we broke down one of her issues and we located the logical fallacy. And then I didn't even have to go through why it was illogical. She could figure it out. The subconscious mind just did it. And within literally 30 minutes, a major mental illness gone. I've done it with that's how I cured my codependency. It's how I cured. It was actually the very last one. I'm so thrilled. It was the one that's linked to addiction, self-mutilation, and what's the other one? Eating disorders. If you have any one of those threes, it's all linked to one logical fallacy. And knowing which one of those logical fallacies allows you to remove it, and it shifts so the invasive perspective comes out. Absolutely beautiful. And yes, when you are exposed to more and more partners, if you don't know how to use boundaries to protect your cognitive core, logical fallacies come in and completely alter it. I do believe in energy. Oh, very much. I'm huge with spirituality, but it's apples and oranges. It's over there in that subject, and it's not inside the cognitive core. The cognitive core and emotional energy are pure logic. It's physics, it's economics. It's understanding what our resources and what our value is and its relationship to our self-worth. Once you understand this, that's the start of the philosopher's compass. It's the core of who we are, where we're going, where we came from, and what our purpose is, why we're here.
Well said.
Thank you.
So would you say that's your next layer to remove, or what is your next layer to remove?
I feel aligned and balanced. I have my cognitive core is clear, it's resolute, it's strong, it's stable. And every morning, every day, I go through the same routine where it's, all right, how is my logic doing? How is my logical health? That's what I call it, is logical health.
I like that.
Thank you. And it's making sure that my logical health is where it needs to be. Human beings are two things that we are unaware of. We are highly logical. We are allergic to illogic, to the point where we create, our system creates cognitive dissonance, which is the emotional consequence, pain, when we are illogical. And the more uneducated you are, the more illogical you are. The more educated you become, the more logical you become. Which is why we see a lot of very uneducated people with a lot of mental illness. It's because they're not logicians. So the more logical you become, the more you can identify logical fallacy, and the more you can straighten out exactly what's going on inside the cognitive core. So it's an evaluation of what's my logical health like today. I wake up every morning, I do a full 30-minute, what do we call it in meditation, body scan. I do a mind scan and a body scan to look for any cognitive dissonance. And whenever I have cognitive dissonance, I then use emotions to identify which cognitive dissonance, where it's coming from. The emotions tell me where, there's 4 sources of emotions. And once you know the 4 sources of the emotions, then it can tell you, okay, this is the emotion I have, which means the logical fallacy is coming from this location, which means this is the problem, which means this is the solution. Once you have that formula down, you go through the logic, you straighten out the logical fallacy, the cognitive dissonance goes away. And then you go about your day. Use your boundaries. Make sure you use your defense system. Communicate, hey, that's not allowed to be around me. I can't have that around me because it's going to damage my cognitive core. And it's basically a significant preservation of your logical perspective, understanding that your perspective is your reality, and that if it takes on any kind of damage, it is significantly going to alter your reality. That's really important as far as maintaining mental health goes. So it's constantly maintaining the perspective, making sure that my perspective is where it needs to be to maintain my optimum mental wealth. And then at the end of the day, I go through it again. How was my day? How's my logical health? What's going on with my balance and my cognitive core? Is my philosopher's compass stabilized? Is it? And it's just this beautiful purring machine now, and it just hums and it purrs. So now it's mostly maintenance. It's all maintenance now, and it's very, very minute. It's just beautiful. It's smooth. So now I teach this to other people. And we talked about it earlier where you've got the givers, the takers, and I use the philosopher's compass to basically remove the taker scarcity mindset. It's the, what did we call it? It was the hoarding of resources or the preservation of resources. And that's the mindset. You're either in I must preserve all resources, And you're either a taker with that mindset, or you're a giver being raised up in a taker's mindset, preserve all resources, scarcity mindset. I use the philosopher's compass to basically reset and recalibrate the perspective according to you and your logical truth. That way you eliminate that resource limited preservation of resources mindset that's causing scarcity.
Yeah. And that's all just a perception, right?
It is. It's 100% a perspective. Yeah. And we live in a society where we devalue, we undermine the importance of an opinion. We're like, oh, it's just an opinion. Oh, no, it's an entire reality. Yeah. It's our perception of reality based off of logical truth. This is the way I put it. You can get a heart transplant. You can have half of your liver removed. You can have one of your kidneys removed. You can have a kidney transplant. You can have a hemispectomy, a surgical removal of half of your brain. You have one perspective. And that is what we open up to the world with vulnerability and say, here's my perspective, go ahead, crap on it. Yeah. Every time we comment on someone's perspective, every time we gaslight, we are literally ripping apart someone's reality. Yeah. And we have no concept of this. We have no process of this. And suddenly we're going, why do I have all these mental illnesses? It's all based on your perspective. Maybe we should be a lot more protective over our perspectives.
Yes. Wow, that's so deep.
Yes, the deep bench.
Yeah,
yes.
Somebody's going to chew on that for a moment.
Yeah.
It's going to change their perspective. Oh, Lord. So, with all that, people get to where they want to go because they know where they want to go. And so where do you ultimately want to go with all of this?
I have 8 billion people on this planet who do not have this information, and they need it. My only goal is to get this information to 8 billion people. I have a radical global healing plan installed. I have my Triadic healing ready to go, and I have the Philosopher's Compass. My ultimate goal is to reinstate the University of Alexandria, where this information used to be universally taught by Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and to get it back to the people. It was taken from us and destroyed in the 4th century by the Holy Roman Empire after the Council of Nicaea created their creed. It is my life goal and mission to restore the University of Alexandria to the people.
Okay, sorry there. I was trying to get you the main screen. Okay. But yeah, no, I wanted you to share that message because I think it's a great message. And I really want to help you. And I think that some of my network will be, ideal for you. And, I sit on the board with Pure Esperanza, and I think that would be a great spot for you to kind of share and use that network to help you to grow because they're on a similar path as you, believing that knowledge is, the key to helping everyone and building a library to share that.
Yes. A lot of people think awareness is the door to change, or is the first step to healing. And the problem is it's actually education, because you're not going to be aware if you're not educated. But you have to value education first. So for me, awareness is not the first step to change or healing. It is valuing education. Because when you value education, you now are open to receive information, and now you can become aware. Yeah. But awareness doesn't happen if you're closed-minded. And that is the very first thing that Plato teaches us in philosophy is close your mouth, listen to learn, open your mind. Now, here's the Socratic method.
Yeah. I completely agree. I've always been a great listener. I think it's really benefited me.
Yeah, you can't be a philosopher and not be a listener. I joke often. It's like all I did for 30 years was listen, observe, open mind, abandon all prejudice, Ask questions. Be curious. That's all. And that's all you got to do. At 30 years, that's all I did.
Yeah, I remember back in grade school, like hearing, I guess it's something, we studied a lot of like American history, right? So, it was like Ben Franklin. He was big on like keeping his mouth closed so that that way he can learn more. And I kind of, you kind of idolize the little bit of information that was, good. You kind of value that. And so like I took that to heart and I was like, wow, I'm really going to like listen to what others have to say. And, and then you get to where you can kind of decipher the truth in what others say because you get so good at listening.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can literally like cut it with a knife and know what it is,
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate your studies, and it shows in what you verbalize. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
When did you become like passionate about this focus? Like, what was like the defining moment,
It was Socrates' fault. It was 100% his fault.
Yeah.
I wanted to get smarter. I started with philosophy. I opened up the first book. It was actually Sophie's World. And that's what started me with philosophy. And it was the question, who are we? And I went, wow, that's a good question. And then it was the question, where did we come from? Where are we going? And why are we here?
Yeah.
And I was really like, I was hooked. It was an immediate, I was hooked into that plot.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And I finished the book and I went, well, wait a minute. What are the answers? And then I studied all of philosophy and I'm still going, what are the answers? And so I studied psychology and I was still looking for the answers. So then it became an obsession of just, I want these answers.
Exactly.
And then around that same time, I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and he asked the question, who is this God person anyway? And I went, well, great. Now I got to know that too.
Yeah.
And then I was watching Anna and the King of Siam. I was watching the musical The King and I. And there is a moment at the very end of the musical where he is poring over books and books for an answer he cannot find, and he would toss away another book. And I don't know how I knew this, but I knew that the question he was looking for is, why do we love? And I had to know that question too. So I had these 6 questions that I needed to understand. It was a riddle. And it was just this obsession since I was 15 years old to answering these 6 questions. And that's all I did. All I did from 1995 to 2023 is ask these 6 questions. And I am pleased to announce that I finally have all 6 answers. And I'm content. I'm happy. And that's it. I'm happy. I got the 6 answers. I'm good. Yeah. But until I could find those 6 answers, I could not function. I could not focus. I could not think. It was a beautiful mind where I had papers all over my bedroom, on my bed, on my floor. It was a tradition to this day, every night, where I have to go in, clear off all of these papers while I was scribbling maps, and I had strings, and it looked like conspiracy theories. And I'm like, I just got to understand. Yeah. Who are we? Where are we going? Why are we here? Where did we come from? Who is this God person anyway? And why do we love?
Yeah.
So I can go to sleep now because I have my 6 answers. So I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jim Britt a few months ago, who was Jim Rohn's business partner, and Tony Robbins actually kind of got his start working for them and kind of learning his journey. And Jim had this, I'll never be able to say it as well as he said it, but he has this question that he was just burning in his mind of fear. Like, fear, why does it have so much power? It literally like directs society, if you will.
Yes, it does.
And what he said was just so profound, is just, why does it have so much power? If and he knows it like you know it and like I know it, that love is our purpose. Love is the ultimate power, and and that's it's the meaning of everything.
It is the meaning of everything. Love is, yes. And I
And
can prove it.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so what he said was the reason why fear is so powerful is because we love fear. And I was like, holy shit, And it's like, once you hear these types of things, like, it's like, wow. And it just like, it just opens up, it's freeing in a sense, to find this information.
I respectfully, strongly disagree.
Wow. Okay.
We have 3 life titans: the subconscious mind, identity, and ego, which is conscious awareness. And all 3 of them have an agenda. The identity's agenda is to define the self, which is love. The ego's, conscious awareness's agenda is to pursue happiness. We're all familiar with that one. But the subconscious mind's agenda is to keep identity safe because the subconscious mind loves her. In order to keep identity safe, it has 2 systems that it uses: the defense system and the fear system. Its only agenda is to keep identity safe. If it fails to do so, it uses the fear system to motivate us to keep identity safe. Love is the motivator and it is the core purpose, but it doesn't love fear. It loves love. It loves identity, and it uses fear to keep identity safe because it loves love.
Yes, but I don't know. I think if you continue with that, the next sentence is it loves fear. It loves everything.
It loves safety. It prioritizes safety. Fear is a tool. Fear is just a tool to get it done. The fear is what uses logical fallacy to sabotage the entire system. The conscious awareness is supposed to be in charge of running and operating the entire logical system. But because it's not aware, because it lacks education, it does not do this job. So the subconscious mind tries to do it for everybody. And that is why we have the invasive perspective. It's why we have logical fallacies. It's because the subconscious mind is doing a job that is not meant for it. It's supposed to be for the subconscious awareness to take control. The subconscious mind is supposed to protect everybody. But because it doesn't know how, because it's uneducated and unaware, it doesn't do this. We're supposed to use communication skills and boundary setting to make decisions and educational choices to keep identity safe. But when this doesn't happen because we are conditioned to not use our own voices, the fear system kicks on as a defense in order to keep the system safe because there's no operating system for the defense because the communication system is down. The motivator is love, love for love. But fear is just a tool to get the job done. We don't prioritize fear. We don't want it. We don't love it. We can live without it. What we love is love. What we love is identity. But we use fear while the subconscious mind uses fear to get the job done. It's just a tool.
I can agree with you there. Let's go to a quick little break, grab some water, and come right back here in just a few.
Thank you.
She emerges, the tapestry of her journey woven into the fabric she wears. TGC Fashion presents the Winter Collection, where the urban landscape becomes a runway. In every stride, a story is told. From the city's rhythm to the untamed symphony of the mountains, she rises, a beacon of strength against the canvas of the winter's embrace. In the cold winds, she finds warmth. In the shadows, she becomes the light. It's not just about clothing. It's about an attitude, a narrative, a woman redefining the season. Alter your closet's DNA. Each piece a genetic code of style, designed to transform not just what you wear, but who you are. It's not just fashion, it's an identity. TGC Fashion, where every outfit is a new chapter, and every woman is the author of her own story. Together, we
we alter the genetic sequence of fashion. All right, welcome back. All right, we've got some more questions here, and then we'll wrap up. We've got, when you first started on this journey in your career, what is something that was like way more trying than you had expected?
More trying than I had expected.
In building this path, this, trying to reach your ultimate goal here. What is something that's been
overcoming the slave mind?
Yeah.
Overcoming the slave mind. Overcoming the slave mind. I had no idea how embedded it was into me.
Yeah.
It's in the phrases we use in our day-to-day language. It's in the vernacular.
Yeah.
And it's in our movies. It's in our cartoons.
Yeah.
And it's just constantly playing like a permanent subliminal message tape into our subconscious mind that shrinks us, that makes us smaller. It's in the words we use. And when I became consciously aware of it, it became this divide of, I need to separate myself from this thing. And I thought it was going to be this little, all right, like everything else that I had. I just got to correct the mindset.
Yeah.
I just got to correct the emotional, mental environment in my mind. I just need to correct the logical fallacy. This was deeper. Yeah. This was me trying to correct it, using the philosopher's compass to plug it in to remove the scarcity mindset, which I did. But the slave mind was different. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was the words that was coming out of my then husband's mouth. It was in the words that were coming out of the television. It was the words in the songs, the words in my favorite movies. And every time I was exposed to the slave mind vernacular, it would just trigger me. Yeah. Like Pavlov's dog.
Right.
Reconditioning me to shrink, obey, do, don't argue, shrinking. And every time I grew and I got out of it, I would see a billboard that would just boom, trigger, and I would shrink. It was embedded in every aspect of our culture.
Yeah.
And it was constantly, like Pavlov's dog, constantly keeping me shrinking, constantly putting me in this box, putting me in the slave mind. The slave mind, the same slave mind mindset that put me in chains, that kept me a slave, that put me through trafficking. So when I finally decided to break out of slave mind, it became a filtration of, okay, what has to go? And I had to systematically start pulling so many different things out. It was ridiculous. It was, okay, I have to watch the movies. I had to watch the culture. I had to watch the Barbie movies, and a wonderful example of this. I removed all culture, everything. I had to quit my job and completely isolate in what I call Analand, just to get away from all the saturation of the subliminal messaging. And somebody was like, oh, you got to watch the Barbie movie. I want to hear your perspective on it. And it was the first cultural anything I had exposed myself to in a year. So I finally had my calibration. I finally had my purity of, all right, I have identity and I know who I am. And I went back to this movie, and I could feel it jarring, and I could feel the cognitive dissonance. I could feel the contradiction. I could feel the shrinking. And it was just like, it was a bombardment of subliminal messaging designed to make us fight amongst ourselves, have a hierarchical status point of view of who's better than who, competition, and then keeping us small and keeping us shrunk over here in the corner and reminding, don't you dare grow.
Yeah.
You're not worthy enough to grow. You need to stay small. And when it was those four accumulations, it was just this, oh, wow, I'm out of the system.
Wow.
So it was overcoming the slave mind. And then when I work with clients and I have people coming to me and they're wanting to be calibrated, I'm like, you need to understand, when I'm done with you, you are going to be out of the system. Now, I have a solution for that. I have literally my own community, Analand, that exists outside of the system with a community, with a network, so they can function. But even the word masculine and feminine is designed to get us to fight.
Right.
Even the words man and women are designed to get us to fight.
Yeah.
So it was a removal of all of it. Thinking in the sense of everything's a spectrum. There's not one perspective or two perspectives. It's not binary thinking. It's not second dimensional thinking. It's all of the perspective shifting thinking. It's encompassing all, removing the hierarchy, understanding that we are a summation of all of us and that we are all the same and we are all equal and we are all connected and we need everybody. And it's also now let's grow ourselves as big as we can. And because we're all givers over here, we just we one up each other in a sense of gratitude. This is my favorite thing about over here. In Analand, we don't do competitive one-upness. I'm better than you hierarchy. We don't do that. We one up each other on gratitude. I'm so grateful. Here, let me give you this. Well, I'm grateful. Let me give you this. Well, I'm grateful. And then we do this. And it's like the best thing in the world if we are one up each other on gratitude. This is what happens when you get narcissists out of the life, when you get away from the system, and when you start growing and everything. And it's like this whole, all right. And it's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. So it's literally removing every poison of that mindset of slave mind out. That was easily that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And, in this networking and business world, all the millionaires, multimillionaires, and people that were self-made, I find the same thing. They're so grateful. They want to help. They want, but they want to help people that are in the same wavelength. They want to help.
It's and you want it that way. That's doers and givers is what I refer to that. It's you got to be a doer and you got to be a giver because I have something called a societal construct. It's one of my favorite things where it's literally it started off as my personal rules of this is how I function because when I got out of that system, I was like, all right, what boundaries do I need to keep me safe? So I created a societal construct to keep me safe and to keep the slave mindset away from me. So I get one of two responses. I get people who want to come into my life and I'm like, look, I appreciate it, but I have a societal construct that I've designed to keep me safe. People will read it and I get one of two responses. I get, oh my God, I love this. I got to have it. Can I have it? Absolutely. Take it. It's on my website. Here you go. But then I have the other people who go, oh, I don't like this. There's too many rules. Those are the narcissists and the abusers. Whenever they read my societal construct, they go, oh, I don't want anything to do with this. I can't. And it's because it's designed to not be used by abusers and narcissists. Yeah. Narcissists and abusers cannot follow my societal construct. And as a result, I live in a world where I have no slave mind. I'm away from that pivoting dog-eat-dog mindset. Right. And I've got this societal construct that keeps me safe, keeps my people safe. We're all doers and gooders, and we're all one up each other with gratitude. It's like, I found utopia. Yeah. I'm good. I live in utopia. It's wonderful.
Yeah. That's such a valuable thing. And I hope more people that hear this or see this come and join you. And I think it'll be a great place to exist in. Now, so, I find a lot of times, the greatest contributors to our character, it may be somebody that did something wrong to us, or maybe some people that did good things to us or gave us good pointers. So who are the greatest contributors to your character today?
That would be Plato.
Okay.
Plato is definitely one of them.
Very good.
It was his comprehension of education, the importance of education, the importance of learning. And I talk about this so much. We assume we know how to learn. We think we just know how to learn, and we don't, which is why when you take philosophy, the first year of philosophy under Plato's schooling is we're going to spend a year just teaching you how to learn. And I liken it to you read a book and you're only getting 2% of that book. Now I have information and I want to give you this information. This is resourcefulness and this is the emotional transaction of resource exchange. Information. I want to give you information. I can't give you information if you don't know how to receive it. So it is imperative that you learn how to learn and I learn how to teach so that we can get this information and transfer it to you in an emotional transaction. In order to do that, we have 3 schools of thought that we must learn, and we're not learning them. So Plato teaches us this in his school of learn to learn, learn to teach. Now, learn this over here. And then he gives you philosophy. So now, instead of learning only 2% of it, you're absorbing 98% of it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between having that lower thinking versus your advanced higher thinking.
Yeah.
And he also teaches you how to open that up. And again, it's if you don't know how to learn, if you never learned how to learn, you're not going to be able to access this information.
Yeah.
So Plato's huge in his influences. The other influence is my partner. My partner is what I refer to as my U of I. And he is the ethical role model that I established for myself to follow, to give myself a heading for my own growth. And it was his diplomacy skills, his absolute lack of prejudice, and his absolute solid ability to recognize justice, recognize an ethical right and wrong, and then doing what's right no matter what.
Yeah.
That became he's literally who I want to be when I grow up.
Wow.
So my partner is definitely the greatest contributor to my character.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's, sometimes people will say, they'll talk about the bad people in their life, but whenever you have these special, it's almost like a node, in our life, and so, yeah, I appreciate that so much thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
If you could interview 3 people, live or dead, who would it be?
Pythagoras. Oh, I have so many questions for Pythagoras. All of the work that we had in the Library of Alexandria was created by Pythagoras. And that is where my journey began. Is somebody said to me very recently that he received his ideas from Egypt.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh, I need to sit down. And Pythagoras was killed by the Roman Empire. And when he died, his theory was split into 2 classes, the Cynic philosopher the Cynicism school of philosophy and the Platonic, what would become the Platonic rationale school of philosophy. I studied Plato. I did not go into the cynical. I didn't do any of that. So I really would love to sit down with Pythagoras.
Yeah.
Da Vinci.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
There's so many theories. And I think at the end of the day, Da Vinci just had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think 98% of what Da Vinci did was just as a personal joke, inside joke to himself.
I think so, yeah.
And I would love to sit down with Da Vinci and just go, how much of this is just you being a smartass? Like, how much of this is you just being? So he's right. I think, I know he's right. And I'm going, all right. But I think a lot of it was just for humor's sake.
Yeah.
So Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Pythagoras. And 3 people. I think Tesla.
Okay.
I think Tesla.
Yeah.
I believe it's because there is so much
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to add a 3rd one in there, a 4th one.
Yeah.
Tesla, I could learn so much from. Tesla, I really want to just pick his brain. Plato, and I will tell you why. Plato has information that I can't get that I'm going to have to reverse engineer. In the Library of Alexandria, or in the University of Alexandria, there were 12 subjects. I found his curriculum, and that's what I followed in 1995 was his school curriculum. And he had nine sections of the arts, 7 or 9 of the arts. And then he had like 3 or 4 sciences. It's a ratio. I'll have to go back on it. But one of the subjects in science that he had was, and it was to be studied at the very end, alongside astronomy and physics, is Plato's astrology. Now, we lost Plato's astrology in the 4th century when the Roman Empire destroyed Alexandria. We do not have Plato's astrology today. But whatever it was so imperative that it be studied with astronomy and physics. And what we have today for astronomy is not Plato's astrology, which means I'm going to have to reverse engineer Plato's astrology. And in order to pull that off, I'm going to have to study astronomy and physics. I'm already working on physics, but I have to understand astronomy. I have to understand geometry and a few other things. It's metaphysics with Aristotle. But my big question is, what was so dire? Oh, there's more to this. After they destroyed the Library of Alexandria, the university, they passed a law that made it illegal for anyone to study astrology. Why?
Yeah.
Philosophy then later became banned. That, like another 500 years, and they removed philosophy from our education. And then later, a few hundred years later, they removed art from our education. That happened in the 1990s. We were there for that one. So I'm looking at it going, what was so dire about Plato's astrology that as soon as they destroyed the University of Alexandria, they said, no one's allowed to touch astrology. And I went, well, that's interesting. What's happening in astrology that we're not supposed to know? But because Plato's astrology became extinct in the 4th century, no one knows what it is. And it's not what's being passed around today. So I'm going, what was in Plato's astrology that it was illegal?
Yeah, yeah.
That is, I have a lot to ask Plato.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a deep dive for sure.
Yeah. I'm eager to get to that one. I'm going to be documenting that on my podcast when I get to it. Like, all right, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm eager to get into it, but I have to have astronomy. I have to have Euclidean geometry, and I have to have basically the celestial maps. It's going to require a lot.
Yeah.
I have to get
what's the
into
name?
Zoroastrian.
Yeah. What's the name of your podcast again?
Shifting Perspectives, or the Healing Journals. The channel is called the Healing Journals, but the Shifting Perspectives is the name of my podcast inside of it.
Yes. And that's on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what practices or techniques make your day, your week, month, year a success?
It would definitely be my logical health. It would be every day. I do my 30-minute logical health check. And then it is what I call the self-sailing system. This is part of my Triadic Healing, my self-care program. The self-sailing system is your intuition, your identity, and your conscious awareness. They are the 3 parts of your 6 parts of your mental system. The intuition is basically that gut instinct that tells you where to go. I believe that it's the energy pool and it's the universe saying, go, do, yes, stop, wait, danger. That's intuition. It's that gut feeling that says, the universe tells me, I've got a gut feeling like this is right. It is this feels right, this feels good. That's intuition. And then there's identity. She's the one going, I want to go here. I want this. I want that. I love this. I need this. That's identity. So the way it works when you are consciously aware and you're plugged into all of this is you have identity, who's basically a 5-year-old screaming and pointing with a lollipop in her mouth. I want to go here. I want to do this. Your job as conscious awareness is to go, okay, identity has spoken. This is manifestation, by the way. And conscious awareness then places the order with the universe and says, I want 5 new clients. Identity wants 5 new clients. And you say the words, you use your chakra to say the words to the universe, and the universe says, okay. And then the universe tells you when to take action using your gut instinct to take action. So through the entire day, I will start off by doing my journal. So I'll do my logical health check to make sure my philosopher's compass is aligned with everything. I'll make sure my cognitive core is clear. And then I will do my gratification journal. I'll do gratitude journaling. I do meditation. I do my manifestation journal with positive affirmations. And then I go about my day, and I am tuned in 100% in this balance of what identity wants and what intuition says I should do. And I have 3 questions I constantly ask. Does it feel right? Does it feel good? And does it give me joy? And if I can't say yes to all 3 questions, then I shouldn't be doing it. And every time I stray off of those questions, bad things happen. So I'm constantly listening. I'm constantly listening and staying open to the universe, to intuition. And I follow that all day long. If I have an interview and I'm supposed to meet someone somewhere, if I have a phone call, if I have an event that's coming up, it's always if it doesn't feel right and if it doesn't feel good, I'll meet somebody and intuition will be like, this person, this, and I'm like, all right, the universe has spoken. We're supposed to connect. Yeah. And it's being tuned into this balance. And the conscious awareness is the ambassador of the whole system. That's all it is. Conscious awareness is the ambassador. But if you haven't trained, if you don't know, if you're completely unaware of how the 6 parts work together, you're not going to be able to be a good ambassador, which is why the subconscious mind takes over and instills the fear system, is because you've got an ambassador. You've got a whole thing here. You've got your subconscious mind, your fear system, your defense system, your intuition, your identity, and you are the ambassador. If you don't have this information, you're not going to be a good ambassador. You need to advocate for identity because intuition is giving you orders and you got to be ready to jump. But if you are clueless to what intuition is telling you that identity wants, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to sit in your ship, sucking your thumb, rocking back and forth, terrified. You're not going to be using your boundaries to keep your system safe. Subconscious mind is going to go, well, the ambassador's out. I'm in charge now. And the subconscious mind, as logical as it is really stupid. It is an archaic AI from the Ice Age with Neanderthal programming. It's not smart. It's not meant to be an ambassador, which is why it's really bad at what it does, which is why it's created the system it's created to keep us safe. It's a bad job. So once the conscious awareness is up and running, then the ambassador can step up and say, all right, it's my job to organize this team. And that's what you are supposed to be doing, is organizing and managing your team. So my whole day is just being tuned into the self-sailing system. And then if I have an emotion, the emotions are messages from the subconscious mind reporting into you to tell you how everything's going upstairs. It's literally a message and a report on your logical health. The subconscious mind sends you an emotion to say, here, we have a report in from your logical health. Now, you can read the message and fix the problem, or you can wad it up, throw it away, and suppress it. Most of us wad it up, throw it away, and suppress it. That's what we do, because that's what we're told to do. Yeah. So emotions come in, and this is what I do. This is exactly how this is how I make my day a success, is I manage this, I balance it, I navigate it, I get emotions in, I pause my whole day. Oh, I have an emotional update from the subconscious mind. It's time to report into the logical health. How are we doing upstairs? And then I read the subconscious mind's message. I know how to translate and speak subconscious mind. So then I have a conversation with subconscious mind, and that goes away. It settles itself down. Everything's all logical, and then I continue with my day. At the end of the day, I check in with my philosopher's compass. I confirm that everyone is healthy, balanced, happy, and then I have an Anna party. An Anna party consists of identity acting like a 5-year-old having a private little slumber party while I watch cartoons and drink chocolate milk.
Yeah, something to wind it all down, right?
Yeah. She's 5.
Yeah.
She's 5.
Yeah.
Most identities are 5. So hence the crown. It's like, all right, this is what you want. This is what you get. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So very good information there. I'm sure that that someone listening needs that. You know, it's like everyone needs this, right? I mean, everyone needs to be able to process what's going on in their mind. So very helpful. And I guess that would be your best piece of advice, or do you have something else that would be helpful?
Educate.
You know?
Just educate. The more information, education is the door.
Perfect.
It's really cut and dry. You are either, we say it all the time. Oh, it's awareness.
Yeah.
If you're not educated,
you
can't make educated choices.
Yeah.
If you're not educated, you cannot make educated choices. Yeah. And there's so many people who are not educated, so they're not making educated choices. Now, you're going to make choices no matter what. You are going to make choices. There are people who don't make choices. Those are called people pleasers. There are people who don't make choices. They are called shut-ins. Technically, they're still making a choice. They are choosing another person's happiness over their own. We call that an uneducated choice. Yeah. But you become educated and you make better choices. Choosing is 100% your life navigation. And if you don't know how to make a proper choice, it's an uneducated choice. You are going to choose poorly. And that's going to reflect in the quality of your life and your happiness. You're not going to have any. So the more educated you become, the more happy you become. We've been conditioned to not enjoy education. We've been conditioned to hate learning. Compliments of our school system.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Learn to love learning. Learn to love education. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to make uneducated choices.
Very, very helpful. Very helpful. Now, if you write a book or another book, what will it be about?
It would be, I already have it all planned out. I'm writing it right now. It is called The Philosopher's Handbook for Life. It is from birth to death and everything in between. And it's literally a full, this is the philosopher's compass. This is the handbook to life. We all say, well, life didn't come with a handbook. Yes, it did. We used to teach it at Alexandria by Plato, and we had it taken away from us in the 4th century. So I'm giving it back, and that's the book. It's the handbook for life.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Do you have a networking event, a book, product, invention, or service that the audience can promote and join your community? How do they get in contact?
Yes, I have an event in January. It is the Healing Garden healing event. We're doing a healing event. It is a universal, it's global, it's online. Eventually, it's going to be online and online and in real life. This event is an accumulation, it's a conglomerate of all healing utensils and resources, public speakers, authors, every healing resource you can think of being accumulated in one place. And we have everything you can imagine, including these classes on triadic healing. It's 19th, 20th, and 21st of January. There's going to be workshops. There's going to be everything you can think of. And it is designed to get you a healing journey plan, kickstart your healing, make sure that you have a well-rounded healing so that all of you is getting healed and not just a fraction. And it's making sure that you have a direction with your healing and getting you in that right place. My healing program is basically, it's the 3 parts of your mental health. It's your mental health, and then it's overcoming your resources, showing you what resources you have and hooking you up with the resources and the community and the network to get those resources. And then it's plugging you in with money and a business and a job or your entrepreneurship so that you have a balanced 3-part system. We remove all the obstacles for you with a team so we can propel you. It's literally you dream, you do the work, we remove all the obstacles and propel you forward. And then when you're done, I plug you into my network, which is a very powerful network, so that we literally break you through, blast through the class systems. We can take anyone from a 3rd class system up to the high class system. And we do it without any obstacles. It's just first we clear up your mental health. Then we drop you into the let's get you up on your own entrepreneurship. Let's get you making money. And then let's get you all the resources you need. Boom, boom, boom. You must be a doer and you must be a giver and you must be screened in order to enter, because we don't allow narcissists in this, because then that's a virus that comes in and it ends up draining the system. So this is Anna Land. This is the community that I was talking about. This is the doorway. So I have the event coming up in January where I'm doing a full power healing. It's all the resources. And then we have the option to, if you want to expand on that, the masterclass is where you come in and I am your dream ambassador. I advocate for your dreams. And that's what our goal is here, to get you from wherever you are to wherever it is you want to go without any of the problems or the obstacles.
That is definitely the best of human ideation right there. Anna, it's been such a pleasure, visiting with you and sharing you, and I can't wait to, share little clips of this that we come across, and I look forward to visiting Anna Land soon, and seeing what you can do. And I know that you do have a great network, because we are kind of in some of the same circles, and I know what it's capable of. So, I hope that people hear this, see this, and come join you, because it will be a great advantage to their life and business. So thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, and may the kindest of words always find you.
Thank you, Anna.